I've tested thousands of plugins over my 15 years of producing music, but I think I've discovered the most useful one of them all. One of my biggest annoyances when producing music, especially when designing sounds, is creating numerous ideas that are not suitable for the current project, but worth saving for future use. When working on a synth patch that has been modified, saving it to your user library is a straightforward process. However, what if you have a complex evolving patch with modulation parameters and a lengthy effect chain? While Ableton allows you to save this as an instrument rack, it's easy to forget the unique sound it produced when later browsing through your racks. I don't love this approach, especially with modulation effects, as the synth patch can sound different each time it's played. I prefer the security of having the sound saved as an audio file, ensuring it won't be lost due to a plugin issue. What you truly need is an audio file that captures the essence of the instrument with all of its modulation and effect chain intricacies. Setting up a resample track within any DAW to record this sound in real time is a straightforward process. Balanced in place is another option, but it may not be ideal depending on the nature and randomness of the modulation. Resampling is always the best choice for complex and evolving patches. While the resampling method is effective, it introduces another issue. After resampling, I often end up with a few minutes of recorded material. I then have to listen through the entire recording to identify and extract the sections I like. Once I have the desired clips, I then need to name them, bounce them out, and add them to my sample library for future use. This process works, but imagine if there was a much quicker way, a resampling method on steroids that could speed up your workflow forever. Allow me to introduce a plugin that took me far too long to discover: the Rolling Sampler by Birds Things. This plugin is priced at just $19 and, as far as I can tell, has a single developer behind its creation, so please consider showing your support. The Rolling Sampler is both a plugin and a standalone program that enables you to record any audio on your computer. The term rolling signifies its always-on capabilities, continuously running in the background on a loop. Once it captures audio, you can simply highlight and drag out the selection to save as an audio file. This plugin keeps the audio data stored in RAM and does not create the file until you extract the selection. This means the data is not constantly being written to your hard drive, filling up the storage space. Now, let me demonstrate how it works. I have around 30 seconds of audio on the screen here. Let's say I like this segment. I simply highlight it, drag it onto a channel in my DAW, and it becomes an audio file. I can even drag it directly into my file system if I don't want it in this project. These audio files are in 32-bit floating point format, but they can be saved as 24-bit integer files if you prefer. The plugin automatically includes the date, time, and BPM in the file name, which saves even more time. While you may want to rename the file to describe the sound, I typically leave it as is and place it in the corresponding folder to denote the sound. The length of captured audio displayed in the window ranges from a maximum of 10 minutes to a minimum of 15 seconds. I usually keep it set at 60 seconds, as anything longer makes it increasingly challenging to navigate unless you resize the window. You can also click on the window to pause the sampler and then use the mouse wheel to zoom in on the selection, which can also serve as an oscilloscope. One of my favourite and most frequently used features is the ability to play back recordings by holding Alt and left-clicking with the mouse. My workflow involves having my synth open with Rolling Sampler positioned in the top right-hand corner of my window, as it doesn't obstruct any essential controls. The Rolling Sampler captures everything happening in real time. In this clip, I'm creating synth one-shots with long reverb tails to use as ear candy effects later on. Once I find a one-shot that I like, I highlight this section and drag it into my sound design folder in my DAW's browser. Now, the file is saved in my file system with the specified naming parameters. I choose to save them directly into a folder rather than onto a channel in Ableton to avoid the extra step of bouncing them out as audio files. Saving them directly to the file system just eliminates this unnecessary process. I then utilize a macOS application called Hazel, which monitors the folder where I save my samples. Whenever a new file is added, Hazel automatically organizes them into a subfolder designated for each day. This means that every day I use the Rolling Sampler, Hazel creates a folder titled with the date and stores my samples from that day within it. For Windows users, File Juggler and AutoIt serve as alternatives to Hazel. These tools offer similar functionalities for organizing and automating file management tasks. With Hazel, you have the flexibility to configure various actions, such as adding tags, moving files to alternative folders, backing them up, and more. Automating this process removes a lot of the faffing around with the files that's all too common in music production, stealing time away from actually making music. If you're anything like me and insist on proper organization to facilitate the creative process, you might enjoy this video showcasing a free sample library folder structure that you can download to improve the organization of your samples. I hope you find it valuable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.